This is a special edition of Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And I'm here with Ray Hagar this morning, and we're joined by phone by Senator Randolph Townsend, who was down in Clovis, New Mexico, testifying along with a lot of other state officials on behalf of Nevada in front of the BRAC Commission, which wants to close down, among other things, the Hawthorne Army Depot and to reassign the Air Guard in Reno. What were your thoughts on the meeting, and how optimistic are you that we might be able to get some of this reversed, mainly because of the false information that was given to the Commission?
Yes, Sam, it went very well. I thought the governor, Senator McGinnis, Mr. Anderson, myself were able to make the case. They were very receptive. The other two states that were there, Arizona and New Mexico, did not have anywhere near the interest in terms of questions that were asked. They were very important questions. General Kirkland put on the record the fact that the information that they had received initially was inaccurate. We walked them through what the accuracy was. And I thought it went very well, and we feel that we've got a very, very fair shot, and that's all we could ever ask for in front of the Commission.
Senator, do you think the possible closure of the Hawthorne Army Depot or the Reno Air Wing could possibly lead to some homeland security issues for northern Nevada?
Well, the answer to that is yes, and I'll tell you the other thing in terms of immediacy is the forest fire issue. The National Guard has been a remarkable asset to us with their C-130s and their firefighter capabilities. We would lose that. They were instrumental in identifying through their photography capabilities where the floods were and where they weren't, and how to get to people, how to rescue people. We would lose all of that. In terms of Homeland Security, our Homeland Security chief spoke. He identified that both of those were crucial to the security of Nevada. So we think the case was made, and we're very upbeat about it.
One of the things that was rather annoying was that with the misinformation that the Commission had been given, that there weren't enough employees for them to actually come and visit the site. Has that now been rectified, and will they come out and actually visit the site?
Yeah, they did commit on the record to visit Hawthorne, not the Air National Guard, but Hawthorne is something that they are willing to come out, and one of the commissioners is putting together the schedule to do that now.
Okay, Senator, moving on to the state legislature, as you know, many of the big decisions of the end game were made behind closed doors. And the state legislature has set up a really tough open meeting law for all the governments below you. Why is not the state legislature in the open meeting law? I mean, there's so much, it's almost like a star chamber around there in the end game.
Well, I respectfully disagree. Leadership does meet. The head committee do meet. But the debate still takes place on the Senate and Assembly floors with the majority of the members. They can outvote any of the leadership any time. The votes do take place on the various floors, and once in a while you have to get one or two people in a room and have a dialogue, and that's been the way of the legislature. I don't think local government is probably a whole lot different, but at the end of the day, the open meeting law should be honored by having those votes on the floor, and they are.
And that's where we've got to leave it. Senator Randolph Townsend, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Good to talk to you guys.
We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the Peppermill Restaurant on the Strip, and the Rainbow Club in Henderson, and Coyote Springs.
Here at the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, just 10 minutes east of Sparks, we are constructing a 16-mile expressway connecting I-80 to Highway 50. This expressway provides direct access and will make it much easier to get to work. A direct route for employment opportunities. From 100% fiber optics to clean, reliable power. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
My family started this business 27 years ago.
We work hard to serve our customers and our community.
But it's getting harder and harder to keep the doors open. For example, our workers' comp is going through the roof.
Isn't anyone on my side anymore?
The Retail Association of Nevada is. If you're a small business owner, we can cut your workers' comp by up to 50%, lobby for your interests, and keep you informed. Put us to work today.
Nevada Newsmakers is sponsored in part by the Nevada Beer Wholesalers Association.
I tell you, John, this industry has really changed.
Tell me about it.
You seem to do pretty well last year. What's your secret?
No secrets. Although I'll tell you something. The smartest thing I did was sign up with Pro Group Management.
Really? Yeah, they do workers' comp, right?
Yeah, their services are great. And get this, they saved me 30%. I've heard they saved others 50%.
That works for me.
Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
Many of the materials we rely on every day come from the ground, and modern mining technology brings them to us cleaner and safer than ever before. To learn more about America's natural resources, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're joined by attorneys Bill Bilyeu and Kermitt Waters. Thank you both for being here today. Last week, the Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, backed seizure of property for development, essentially eminent domain. And there was a quote in the Las Vegas Review-Journal that said, "In the future, none of us will be safe in our homes or our property from such arbitrary action by bureaucratic kleptocrats who decide they want your property to increase the tax base or to give it to some super-rich supporter who they think can use it for a higher and better use." That was your quote, Kermit.
Sounds familiar.
Contrast that, if you're going to get to the editorial that appeared, I think, this weekend in our local paper,
the Reno Gazette.
Reno Gazette Journal, which lauded this and that we should not have any worries.
Let's start out with what is eminent domain, because a lot of people are not really aware of that term if they're not an attorney.
Well, I don't like to call it that, particularly if I'm handling one in court. I call it a constitutional action because eminent domain or condemnation has a connotation of something wrong with it, or it's bad, or has no value. Eminent domain is essentially the government's right to take private property for a public use. And along comes this idea of redevelopment is a type of a public use, and all it is a reverse form of Robin Hood. They take from the poor and give to the rich, or take for the less wealthy and give it to the more wealthy. And it's just not fair. And they claim, well, you're going to get just compensation for it, but they don't. Very few people get made whole in eminent domain.
And like in the Kelo case, which the U.S. Supreme Court just recently decided, how do you give just compensation to a woman who probably lived in that house for 40 or 50 years, was not a blighted house by any stretch of the imagination? And they said, well, nothing wrong with your house, but you happen to be in this whole development area, so because we are interested in Pfizer Corporation coming in and building a factory, we're going to take your property, pay you market value, whatever that is, for it, and force you into relocation so that we can then, in turn, give this property to private developers to develop and lease out for $1 a year in some cases. So,
Kermit, the University of Nevada has wide expansion plans, and a lot of those expansion plans go into land now where there's a lot of small homes that are occupied by seniors. Do you think that
that's a public use? That's clear public use. So that's not what Kelo's about. Kelo's about coming up with these nonsense, contrived ideas to raise the tax base, because the cities don't want to raise taxes because they might get kicked out of office.
Kelo just redefines, quote, throws out, prior to this, well, most of the cases, there's been a gradual erosion of the concept of public use. Now, it basically, Kelo says, whatever the governing entity says is a public use is a public use. and in the Kelo case was, well, we want to improve the tax base and we want to attract industry. So basically they could come up and say, fine, we're going to put it, we decided that this area over here would be a nice industrial park, so let's go condemn Sam Shad's house.
You were involved in the Pappas case in Las Vegas, which is probably, some would say...
I didn't try it, but we were involved in it after the Supreme Court turned them down on it.
And there were some that would say that was one of the most egregious cases of this. Explain what happened.
Well, the downtown, the city decided they wanted to improve...
This is in Las Vegas.
Yeah, the city... Well, actually what happened is Bob Snow was going to come in and build a casino down there in this area and get the local landowners, including Pappas's, to go in together and jointly build a casino. And the city, with the power structure and the I guess you call it spin masters and the special interest groups behind it, the other casinos primarily, they didn't want it. So they come up with this concept to have this area redeveloped and condemned, and they turned it into essentially to a parking lot. And very few people use a parking lot, but that's what they did to keep Bob Snow from coming in. But all these reasons why they needed it for public need necessity, but they finally admitted in court it was essentially to keep a casino out. So they took this property and essentially have turned it over to private gaming interest.
And one of the things, we got the Kelo case, which basically had realized that the eminent domain, if you will, if you want to call it that, the takings, is in the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, which U.S. Constitution was made applicable to states by the 14th Amendment. And that was a restriction upon government's power. Kelo now says that whatever local government determines is subject to deference, and we will, and we see no constitutional issue if the local government says it's okay. Then what did our legislature in their wisdom do this time out?
Actually, let's take a pause and then we'll come back and we'll talk exactly about that. Right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
For a videotape copy of any Nevada Newsmakers program, call 775-857-2244. The tapes are $20 each, including shipping.
This is one of Sierra Power's main generating plants. It's right next door to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. These plants provide all the clean, reliable power that businesses need. TRI has 3 independent power generation facilities on site. For sensitive manufacturing companies and high-tech firms, this benefit is invaluable. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
When you need a new employee, how can you be sure who you're really hiring? A background investigation by Employer Links will uncover criminal records, verify the applicant's education, check their credit history and Social Security verification. An investigation will research professional licenses and driver's licenses and let you know why they're unemployed. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
It rotates, revolves, faster than your imagination, with every breath, every blink of an eye. Within every degree lives adventure, a new home for the restless at heart. Reset your compass for the time of your life. 360 degrees of adventure, 365 days a year. Reno, Tahoe, America's adventure place.
When making your decision as where to play golf, consider the resort at Red Hawk. You know you have made the right choice the moment you arrive. The friendly staff welcomes you to our award-winning pro shop. You know you've made the right decision on the first tee. The Lakes course is in the best condition in years. You know you've made the right choice after you've played 18 holes. The resort at Red Hawk, the right choice.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're continuing our discussion on the Supreme Court decision, 5-4 decision that backs the seizure of property for development. According to the New York Times, in a bitter dissent, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor said the majority had created an ominous precedent. The specter of condemnation hangs over all property. Nothing is to prevent the state from replacing any Motel 6 with a Ritz-Carlton, any home with a shopping mall, or any farm with a factory. Let's talk about what happened at the legislature this year.
Well, AB 143 was a bill that was sponsored by Assemblyman Horn. It added 3 or 4 or 5 different new criteria as to what a redevelopment agency has to go through in order to get it approved. But what it left intact was a provision in that act that says that you can't take judicial review from it. So no matter how deceitful, dishonest, or corrupt those findings are, you can't go take judicial review from them. You can't go to court and challenge them. That's nonsense. I brought that to his attention. They did nothing to correct them. I even took it to Senator Amadei and said, this is nonsense. And he looked shocked, but they did nothing about it. So all the criteria in the world you can put there, if you can't go to court and challenge it, you might as well just, it's a joke.
So the U.S. Supreme Court has said, okay, we're going to give deference to local governments and the state legislatures, and we're not going to question what they do. Then our statute basically says once they've made the decision, judicially you can't look behind that as terms of fraud or collusion or inappropriateness at all. So basically, I mean, it's a license to steal. And one of the Connecticut case basically said, well, you know, it was a grand redevelopment scheme, and they didn't really know who was coming in there. That was, you know, not exactly correct, but you know, it's a very disturbing case. Very disturbing case. Oh, and what our legislature did is very disturbing.
The Supreme Court decision, it's a 5-4 decision, so there's a lot of friction there between the Supreme Court justices. Any comment on that, the 5-4 decision?
Well, you know, it's the law of the land, even though it is 5-4, but I was pleased with the dissents. The dissents made sense. Justice O'Connor, her observation is, at least, that's an understated one in my opinion. It's going to get worse than that. I think right here in the city of Reno, that city manager just salivating right now to move on this stuff.
Well, I was just going to point out that Justice Rehnquist, Scalia, and Thomas were the other dissenters.
It's like baseball. You can lose by 10 runs or 1. You still lose.
And Thomas wrote a very well-reasoned and very well-researched dissent in there that basically went into the historical evolution of the Fifth Amendment.
Okay, let's talk about, you know, there are times, are there not, when eminent domain is appropriate. For example, you'd never get a new road built if you didn't have that ability.
That's not what we're talking about. No. That's not what we're talking about.
That historically has always been recognized as a, quote, public use. For the public good, we're going to take your private property because the use we have is going to benefit the public as a whole. The public will be able to use that road.
But you have a controversy in Hidden Valley here with the Tahoe Pyramid Link, or a road that is a connector road that is desperately needed in this area, if not now, but certainly in the very near future. How does that fall into this?
It seems to me it would fall if there has been comprehensive hearing, comprehensive plan, and there has been a showing of minimal showing of a public necessity, then the use of eminent domain in that case would be both appropriate from a practical standpoint and from a historical standpoint.
But this is a very wealthy neighborhood, and the homeowners have put up a tremendous fight, and the county commissioners at this point are not willing to take a step in that direction.
And that's a political decision that they have opted not to make.
See, the reason these businesses that have the power to influence the city or the local entities want to do this, that they don't want to pay them they don't want to pay for taking somebody's property what they really cost them. They want to use eminent domain so they can go in there and get it valued at much less than what it's really worth, because that's where the bite comes, is how you adjust and how you reach just compensation in court. Because they use all kinds of tactics. They'll use 10-year-old sales. We had one case where they got by with 10-year-old sales over our screaming objection. In Vegas, can you imagine a 10-year-old sale, what value it is, or the purchase price is 10 years old? They got all kinds of ways. They changed the highest and best use. The Nevada legislature changed the definition of market value from the highest price, which every state in the union except about 2 has got, to a most probable price. You know, try to buy something at the most probable price and people look at you like you're nuts.
And I have a great deal of difficulty conceptually and realistically with the idea of government supplanting the market in terms of decision making. In other words, we government bureaucrats are going to supplant what the market forces say, and we're going to say, well, this is a better use for this area or this property than what market forces will do. I'm there's been too many bad examples of what the result is when government gets involved in private enterprise. And here there was taking, which basically taking not for a public use, but to give to private interest.
And that's where we got to leave it. A fascinating discussion, gentlemen. I thank you both for being here. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
High-tech companies demand perfect world amenities. They require clean, reliable power, state-of-the-art fiber optic communications, and clean water sources. In a perfect world, companies would have immediate access to rail and interstate freeways. There would be 4-lane expressways that shorten shipping times and provide convenient commute routes for valued employees. Well, the future is now, and it's here. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
So, who do you use for workers' comp?
Pro Group Management.
Ah, I've heard some good things about them.
Oh, you bet. Employee background checks, safety training, claim seminars. Oh, and here's the great part. If you have an issue, they work for you, not against you.
Sounds perfect. And expensive.
Well, that's the best part. They saved me 30%. I've heard they've saved others 50%.
Works for me.
Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, joined by a terrific Power Pundit panel as always. Bob Crowell with the Crowell Group
Morning.
is here. David Jacobs, Assistant City Editor for the RGJ, Reno Gazette Journal, and Andy Barbano, Editor of NevadaLabor.com.
Well, this morning in the RGJ, we had a story that showed that in 4 years, the state general fund budget has gone up a whopping 71%. And I just wanted to, Bob, what is your opinion on that?
There's no doubt that when you just do the math, the budget's gone up that much. But I think that you really have to look behind what a large chunk of that is. And $300 million of that is the rebate. Another $200 million went to the rainy day fund. So I'm not certain what that drops the math down to, but clearly, this appears to me to be one of those situations where, the math is scary, but when you look at what the dollars are really doing, it's not that scary of a budget.
But don't you think that conservatives in both houses can take this number and play with this a lot?
Well, I think the spin can happen on this number for sure.
Well, and David, doesn't this just encourage people like Bob Beers and George Harris to go along with their taxpayer Bill of Rights based on the Colorado bill?
I think it needs to be a good look at, how is the money being spent and what are the priorities. And I think, like you were saying earlier, it's just a matter of how you look at it. And I agree with him that, there seems to be great competition for these funds. So depending on who gets it and who doesn't get it, you're going to get a different point of view.
Well, what about the conservative fodder here, Andy?
The moon howlers are always going to howl no matter what happens. And you're looking at this in too narrow of a perspective, 1 year or 2 years over the last 1 year or 2 years. We are so far behind in every area from where Nevada needs to be that we could spend 2 or 3 times more of that increase and still be down at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah,
so
but Andy, if I want to remodel my house, I do it one room at a time over a period of years. I don't try to do it all in just a couple of years.
The analogy falls down, Sam. The government of the state of Nevada is not your house. Government is not a business. It's an entity that is like no other, and we are a socially deleterious and retro environment. We've got a lot of crying social needs we don't take care of because we've never been that kind of a state, and that's why we're at the bottom of everything that's good and at the top of everything that's bad. And a pittance from the legislature isn't going to make much difference.
But aren't you going to see things just moving more to a fiscally conservative period here in the state now we've gone so far in the other direction in the last couple of sessions?
I suspect there's that chance, but frankly, and maybe I'm misreading what the press said during the last debate here on the rebate, but my read of what the public was saying on that $300 million rebate was, hey, we're not necessarily interested in a rebate. Why don't you just keep the money for a rainy day or keep it in
You know,
Bob,
I got to disagree with you. I went out during that period of time and gave several speeches to various Rotary Lions Club groups, and each time I asked them, I said, by a show of hands, how many of you expect to get money back from the state? And very few hands went up. And I said, how many of you would like to get money back from the state? And everybody's hand went up.
Well, sure, everybody's hand goes up. But
anybody will say that.
Yeah,
I think it'll be
says
interesting
that.
to see how much money the state gets from these people that do not don't update their current addresses, so they don't get their checks. And there's been stories about what's going to happen to this money. It's going to go into this fund.
I mean, I've had people come up to me.
Interesting to see.
I've had people come up to me and say, where do we sign on the bottom of that form to give our money back? Really?
Well, there's
Bob, you're on the school board,
yeah,
so maybe some of your acquaintances and friends perhaps are pro-school and may think like you.
I hope they all do.
But there's a lot of people that don't.
I agree with him. Well, we're behind the eight ball in so many ways. There are much better uses for that money, and the DMV rebate is inequitable. There are many people who paid lots and lots of regressive sales taxes over the last several years that are not going to get dime one. There is no good way to rebate this thing, and what you're doing is rebating it to a lot of people that unfairly. Many people the people that take the bus aren't getting it back.
Well, instead of this rebate, why don't we just cut the taxes down like many businessmen and businesswomen have suggested? What about cutting back this payroll tax or the
we didn't
business
see
tax?
There was a tiny rollback in the business tax.
It was ridiculous. It was
a symbolic rollback, a pittance in the payroll tax. But when you look at that, I mean, I think you have to take that in perspective too, because I'm not certain. When you talk about the large budget, the $6.5 billion, which you wrote about this morning, I think you have to look at how much money the payroll tax really contributes to that, and I don't think it's that much money. I mean, in the scheme of things, it's a lot to people. But in the scheme of how you fund government, I'm not so certain that the payroll tax in and of itself is a big generator of the funds that go to make up that $6.5 billion.
Why can't you just do away with it? Do a favor for business who have been overtaxed for the last 4 years, or at least the last 2 years.
That's not true.
Well, I don't know.
Well, based on the budget, it was, Andy. I mean, we collected a heck of a lot more money than was initially thought, and that $800 million tax increase really wasn't necessary.
The money came from sales tax and gaming tax.
Okay.
So that's one thing. If you bring it back, if you give the rebate back in a sales tax, where you're going to have to give and gaming tax, you're going to have to bring all the losers in from California and give them some money back, which hopefully they'll throw back in the casino.
And that's where we have to leave it. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this time out.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
High-tech companies demand perfect world amenities. They require clean, reliable power, state-of-the-art fiber optic communications, and clean water sources. In a perfect world, companies would have immediate access to rail and interstate freeways. There would be 4-lane expressways that shorten shipping times and provide convenient commute routes for valued employees. Well, the future is now, and it's here. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
And coming up on the show tomorrow?
Well, Sam, we have Don Marandino of Harrah's and Assemblywoman Sheila Leslie of Reno.
It'll be quite the fiery show. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.